What's going on, NBA 2K fans? This is PT Sports 84. Everybody knows me as Pete Toll. Um, I have another video for you guys today. 2K has officially released a patch this morning, along with another official roster update for NBA 2K23 on next gen. Unfortunately, anybody that's interested in any retro content, nothing's been updated there. Um, Usually, if anything was added as far as faces for a patch, um, that for the players that were generic, we have to wait on a roster update for the retro content for them to take off the generic faces and add the numbered player IDs for the retro players. So I don't see anything with retro right now. What's up, Brandon? Hope you're having a good start to your week, man. Um, so with that said, I don't have any retro content to go over in this video. I will show you the retro content for the eras just to make sure. I went through the regular roster, the regular classic teams, and didn't see any changes to anything. Um, Oddly enough, in the patch notes, again, Craig Elo has a dynamic hair update. This has got to be a record for how many times a player has been listed on patch notes in a season for 2K, because Craig Elo has been on that list a number of times, and I still don't see anything different. Um, I hope for 2K24 that we see a um, better sense of communication from whoever's doing the patch notes, because it seems like the art department is not communicating effectively with whoever's doing the patch notes, and players are being missed because I found players in past patches that were not highlighted, as well as players that were counted on the patch notes that aren't even in the game. So it just needs a better cleanup. But first, before I jump into the patch and show off some players, I want to go through some players through the video, the latter part of this video, and just kind of cycle through the rosters, see if we see anything um, for any players that may have gotten missed on the patch notes or anything like that. But first, I want to go through the quick roster update. Um, the last roster update they had a mini roster update, very small one last Monday. The only transaction was Jay Scrubb added as a two-way contract to the Orlando Magic. That is why I did not do a roster update. It wasn't significant enough to do literally a 10-second highlight to one player. So I was trying to wait because there was quite a few NBA transactions for various teams made over the last week, and one team in particular, the Portland Trailblazers, that had to have extra players added that can only be utilized by 2K, because only NBA 2K themselves can add the hardship waiver and then add extra players to the team above the team limit of 17 total, including the two-way contract. So we had to wait officially for them to add those players on to the rosters to make sure that it was a proper roster update. Without further ado, though, let's jump into the teams. First up, we got the Charlotte Hornets. They made two roster transactions. Xavier Sneed signed to a 10-day contract. He was one of the final 10-day contracts signed. And obviously, with not having 10 games remaining, no team can sign a player to a 10-day contract. What'll happen with Xavier Sneed, and then you'll see Luka Samanic for the Jazz. Their 10-day contracts are up on this coming Thursday, so I'd expect those two players to cycle out with somebody else, and then they can sign a player for the rest of the season from there. So Friday's roster update, it should see something as far as player movement from there. JS7, I'm going to go through the players. We'll look together. If anybody has already gone through the rosters and sees anybody that's not on the patch notes that's been updated, please let me know, because I'd gladly highlight those so everybody could see if everybody's not aware. But yeah, Xavier Sneed, has already played for the Hornets a couple games. Kobe Simmons. Those that remember Kobe Simmons, he was undrafted in 2017-2018 season. He was with the Memphis Grizzlies previous. He's been with Greensboro Swarm all season, and so he finally got a call up there. He's been playing really well for them. As you can see, he has an official cyberface added, so that's good to see there for him. He's a combo guard there, but I think he'll play behind Teo Maladon because obviously the Hornets are sitting everybody at this point, so it'll be all the young guys, James Bouknight, etc., playing for the Hornets. But we do have Kobe Simmons with an official face there. You can find the patch notes. Just Google it, NBA 2K23 patch notes. You'll see they're very slim this time. That's usually what happens at the end of the year. We barely get anything, but they do sneak some things in there that they don't highlight sometimes. So that's what I'd like to see maybe going through the rosters and see what happens. Luka Samanic is signed, like I said, to a 10-day contract for the Jazz. He's been playing well, hustle minutes for him. Jarrell Brantley was waived in order to get Luka Samanic on the team. And then we go over to the Indiana Pacers. Pacers are also playing a lot of their young guys as well. They let go of Trevelyan Queen, who had an altercation with a referee. Seems like some maturity issues there were continuing. And then Gabe York has been really doing well in the G League for them. Gabe York is not a point guard. He's more of a 2 than a point. He can play point, but what's up, Johnny? I'm going to go through with the likenesses. I know a few of them have been updated, like some hair updates, but I want to go through some other players and see if some faces got updated. So we're going to do that in just a minute. I just want to go through the transactions first. But yeah, Gabe York is going to get playing time for them for sure. He signed to a 2-way contract, so he's somebody I know they're high on overall. So going through the rest of it, there's not much as far as the roster update. We got some changes to the Portland Trailblazers, and this is where it was important to wait for the roster update so that we can get all these players fitted on the roster. Skylar Mays, they flip-flopped the numbers incorrectly for Skylar Mays, and then you'll see Shaq Harrison. They're supposed to be Skylar Mays is 8 and Shaq Harrison is 00. Also, the positions, because Shaq Harrison is a point guard, but so is Skylar Mays. He shifted over to point guard after playing the shooting guard position for like the Hawks and stuff like that. He switched over to point guard for the Mexico City Capitans a number of games ago, and so he actually is starting at point guard for the Blazers right now. So they add both of them. Skylar Mays has looked really good so far for Portland. And then Shaq Harrison is going to be able to, go from there. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Carrie, the third 2-way spot. Yeah, I figured that was going to happen. That way it gets to 18 players total for the roster. I would not be shocked if there's like a lot of second-round players that really sign into that 2-way contract. It was already happening, but now really heavy because teams may utilize that last official roster spot for that veteran-laden player for the locker room for a lot of teams, and then they can utilize that third 2-way spot for the second-round guy they get and things like that. So I think that's the route they may go. Another transaction, Ryan Arcidiacono was waived for Portland because they didn't need him as a point guard with Harrison and Mays in there. They end up signing Salt Lake City Stars Jonathan Williams, or Jonathan. I don't know how he pronounces it. I'll be honest, I don't really watch a ton of G League stuff outside of the major highlights. I'm been focusing more on college basketball this year with, of course, all the NBA teams. But Williams is a versatile scorer who likes to shoot off the dribble, 42% from three, 84% from the line. He doesn't draw a lot of fouls, though. Good rebounder for a shooting guard, small forward. Okay playmaker, but a below average defender as far as NBA standards go. Um, he actually signed a 2-year contract, non guaranteed, for next season. So they're going to go into tank mode, but ironically enough, they won last night versus the Timberwolves. Shame on the Timberwolves, man. The Lakers are going to get that 6th seed. It's going to be Lakers, Sacramento, and don't be shocked if the Lakers beat Sacramento in the first round. And then you basically get Memphis. You could be looking at Memphis versus Golden State in the first round. Then Golden State beats Memphis. So it's Golden State versus the Lakers in round two. Like, that's crazy. Like, if that happens. I'm not saying it will, but it'll be crazy if it does happen. But, is what it is. That's it for the player transactions. Like I said, not a major update at all. I'm hopeful we get one last ratings update this Thursday. I don't know for sure if we will. But there are some players, especially back into the rotation guys, that need updating that have played, so they can go ahead and fix up their ratings to close out the year. But as you can see here with Shaq Harrison, he's got the hardship waiver. They were able to add over 15 players to the regular roster to get the Blazers filled out there. So that's it for the roster update part of things. So let's go over to the player likeness updates. Let's look at Anthony Davis. They have him marked as far as dynamic update. So let's see here. They have for him. Looks like, I guess, a low hairstyle there. You guys are going to have to help me out with the hair, like what was here and what wasn't previous. But I'm just going to go through the different looks for Anthony Davis. I'm not the best when it comes to hair and tattoos, so I do apologize. But these are all the looks that they have for Anthony Davis. See, and that's back to the first hairstyle. So that's Anthony Davis. Next up, we have Bol on the list. The long braids are new. Okay, I appreciate that, Ethan. Thank you. It's hard for me to always tell, like I said, what is new versus what's not. Okay, let's go Bol. Now, I know previously he had a longer version of his hair added. I can't imagine. Like, I don't see. Does anybody see anything different? Because I don't see anything different other than the hair moves. I'm guessing that's all they changed, was the hair being able to move. I guess. I mean, okay. To me, that's. I think you could have put more into a likeness update. Obviously, there's a few players, notable players, that should be updated, but it is what it is. So the hair moves. Like, if you move the player, see, the hair moves for Aaron Gordon. That's all it is. Yeah, it's just the dynamic hair. There's not any new hair necessarily added for any of those guys. Let's go through some players. You guys can ask me if you want to look at a player to see if they're updated or not. Let's do it this way. See if it shows anybody with a new face. I'm gonna go through and look actually this way. I'm gonna look at some players that don't currently have faces and see if any of them had an added face to the game. Like, Marko Simonovic should have had a face a long time ago. All right, yeah. So Jalen Green. I'm guessing the new hair you mean by his short hair. I doubt it. That would have been something they should have highlighted. Yeah, no new hair for him. It's just the long hair, that weird hair, and then basically that's it. Nothing new for Jalen Green. Let's check. I know it's not going to happen, but check it anyway. Yep, no Anthony Edwards update. That's one that everybody's asked about countless times. I'm going to guess there's probably nothing else updated, unfortunately. Very, very poor update, in my opinion. There's so many other players that could be updated. All you got to do is log into Operation Sports or the 2K forums themselves and see a list of who people are asking for. And I don't mean LeBron James, and I don't mean Anthony Edwards. There's a lot of players that are, two-way guys that they could have the art team make necessarily just as a fill-in. Like Krejci should have a face. There's players. So, they're not short on a list of players that could be updated. Same with the retro players. There's tons of retro players that could be updated across the board. So, unfortunately, they don't. Like Fontecchio, they could have made a face for since he's more of a rotation guy for them. They just got to think forward of okay, this guy's in the rotation. Maybe we can get a face for him made until we can get a scan next summer or whatever it is. But they choose not to do that for whatever reason. So, yeah, it doesn't look like there's any of the generic cap faces done for players at all. Moses Brown's been in the game for 3 years and hasn't had an update either. It is what it is. At this point, I don't. I'm more on the side of I hope it gets done, but I'm not. Not necessarily optimistic that a lot of the stuff goes. Can you download the roster file? Yeah, you can. So how you do is you just save roster there, and then it saves in, and you can type it in and save it that way. Usually that's what I do whenever there's a ratings update. I save it and go that route. I only do it for the ratings update just to have a comparison of the prior official ratings versus the new ones. And kind of go from there. But Ish Wainwright's another one, and Ish Wainwright was at Summer League and was interviewed by 2K. I thought for sure he'd have a face scan, but it just never happened. So, it doesn't look like anybody else has been updated. Bookie Allen, I don't have a roster file as far as the current stuff per se, finished. If you go to my gamer tag, it's PT Sports 84. Just look up the online ID when you're downloading rosters. You'll see my G League, retro, and current roster on there. It's a couple weeks old. I have a new update coming, but it won't be up probably for another day or two. It's not finished. I was going through and re-rating current teams, added all the historic missing players, added all the G League players, fixed the all-time teams, all that stuff. You can see that update on 2K Share and go from there. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything. I'm sure somebody will find, a player or two that's been updated other than that. It is, let's see. It's under retro plus current plus G League roster. You can see it right there. Retro plus current plus G League roster. And you can see it there. Obviously you can see my other rosters for the different eras and stuff like that. What I did with the ones that are default, basically took MJ Wizard's rosters that he did and just did the player transactions. I got permission from MJ Wizards that was okay. So basically, it's his rosters and go from there. Reginaldo, yeah, it's been a while, man, because there's just no content for 2K, man. Like, um, again, the roster is retro plus current plus G League roster. Go under the user. So how you do it is go create roster, modern, user created. You can find it. You can find it uh, right there. Updated. Where is it? Right here. So it's retro plus current plus G League roster. So that's the most updated one. As you can see, it was from like March 18th. So a couple weeks old, like I said. But yeah, let's go into the Eras stuff and see anybody that's updated. Actually, first, let me do what I always do and look at the Clippers. Nope, no Alvin Gentry on the Clippers. Should have known better there. Um, Interesting that as much work they put into the Eras, they just stopped all of a sudden because they put a ton of effort in getting the updates in at the beginning of the year, and then it just completely stopped. Um, don't really know why, but that is what it is. So I would love to see Chris Webber back into the game. He's sorely needed. We'll see whether that happens or not. I hope they improve the faces for next year. Like the guys they don't have faces for, I hope they'll go ahead and get those in and updated because there's a lot of faces that are missing. One thing they need to do for the Nuggets is go get like Skeetishvili, Donnell Harvey, Junior Harrington. Like, go get those guys and get them in the game. Rodney White. Like, they're all on social media. Go get them and get them into NBA 2K because it's definitely needed to have those players in the game to fill this roster out because that's a sad roster right there. If you can win a game with the Denver Nuggets and beat a team with literally Mark Blunt, Kenny Satterfield, Ryan Bowen, Chris Anderson, James Posey, Camby, and Howard, you were good at 2K. Because if you can win with this team consistently, man, you're good on the sticks. On a difficulty level that's like all-star and above. Like, because that's tough. Like, that team has no shooting and just not good. Like, they weren't good in the real NBA, but like they're even worse without like Skeetishvili, Rodney White, like nobody that can shoot from the outside. Yeah, no updates, unfortunately. Like I'd like to see Boston Knockbar have a face. Like that would be nice. Like they don't even have like so they had the same team in the historic rosters and they don't even have that correct. They don't even match like the info. It's crazy. Like Radmanovich was not a center. Like he was a power forward. Like that's off. Like as is. Like it's got a more attention to detail, but it is what it is. We need Troy Murphy and we need well, definitely at least Troy Murphy um, on this team. Hopefully he can get added in at some point. For this team, Kwame Brown, but based on Kwame Brown's social media stuff, man, like I'd be shocked if he ever agrees to NBA 2K at this point. And he's one of the harder faces to make too. But it is what it is. I'd love to see Dewan Wagner on this Cavs team. Once his son, Dewan Wagner Jr., like once he's NBA bound, I hope at that point we still have the eras and you can get Dewan in the game, but we'll see. Guys like Dan Gadzuric, he's in the NBA RPA. They just didn't even make an effort to go get him, so that wouldn't be hard to get. Stuff like that. That's where they got to pay attention overall for. But it is what it is. I'll show off real quick what I was talking about with my roster. Here, let me go to my This one's not out yet, but I'll go to because it's the most current. Like I've touched up the ratings for players and stuff like that for the current teams, like transactions. Like you'll see, um, like there's Kobe Simmons and stuff like that, like without the face. Like I did transactions, but I can't do the Trailblazers team because obviously they don't have enough. Like there's no ability to get Williams and Harrison on the team correctly, but I edited positions and did all that stuff. But more so, I filled in the historic teams correctly with all the players that are missing across the board. Like you can see those guys added in. For anybody that's interested and wants to use this, go for it. Like you'll have to fix up the tendencies and stuff because I haven't done any of that for any of these historic teams. It takes too long. The ratings as well for a lot of these. But if you want corrected ratings and stuff, like as far as guys already in, you certainly can use MJ Wizard's content. His is a work in progress as well. I prefer my faces, like as far as players, for most of them, but obviously MJ Wizards is more glued into the retro stuff as far as ratings and things like that go. So I highly recommend um, checking his roster out, of course. Um, but like, see, like I have to fix Johnny Davis's. Like that was his last season. He's not a 79 overall. Um, just going through. Like William Bedford was injured that season, so I'd have to put an injury tag on him. Um, things like that. So, and I didn't go with I didn't go with adding extra players to fill out the 14-man roster for this. That's one thing 2K needs to do next year for 2K24. For anything before 2005, the minimum requirement should be 12 for rosters. Like that should be fixed. I hope. But anyway, so we got all the teams here overall, like filled in, like I said. What's a team that, like, you can see, like, Bison Dele there. Sean Leonard. You got the Bulls team there, Rusty LaRue, Joe Klein, Keith Booth. I did fill in for William Cunningham here because he was on. If somebody was on a 10-day contract towards the end of the season, I put him on the team if they needed to fill in a 13th roster spot because I tried to get at least 12 or 13 players depending on the team based on everything. But you got like Rick Brunson for the Raptors, like there you got. Like I put Jamel Thomas, even though he was signed at the very last end of the season, he was still on the roster, considered. Slava Medvedenko. What's up, MJ Wizards? Man, I was just talking about you, man. Like you're I was telling people that your historic stuff is a work in progress. And so I'm like kind of working on my roster as well. So I'm just going through what my roster looks like as far as filling in all the historic teams. And MJ, man, like we haven't talked about it, and you do what you feel like. But if you wanted to quicken your process and go ahead and use my guys as a template and then fix it how you want to, go for it. Like you don't have to, but I figured maybe it would make things quicker for you because I already have all the guys on the rosters. But you do whatever you feel like. Because obviously you're better at the ratings and all that stuff than I am. But wanted to at least get the guys onto the rosters and stuff to have something to release. Like I did a little bit executive decision here. Jamie Fike had been out for the year with either ACL or Achilles. I can't remember. He never played again in the NBA, but he was under contract that season. So in order to fill the roster out, that's what I did as far as that roster goes. But like same for the Lakers, like Udoka, I added on to the roster. A lot of people don't care about NDEB, like I added him correctly. Try to add Respectable faces at least for most teams. I had to fill out the 0405 Suns with like Smush Parker, even though he is waived. But to get to a roster limit, I filled in like uh, Utah Tabusi was waived early too. Like so, those are executive decisions to get the roster limit as well. But like getting guys like Anthony Roberson in was important to me, like Lawrence Roberts, Earl Barone for the Heat, like stuff like that. So, like Dwayne Jones, like these bottom tier players, like I just wanted to get them into the roster to make sure they're properly filled out for all the teams. Patrick O'Brien, of course, was already in there, but I fixed his face up to be a little bit more accurate. Calvin Booth, getting guys like Mike Hall, like that's important to me to fill out the roster properly. Now, obviously, the ratings don't match because I haven't gone through a lot of the teams yet. So the ratings you see aren't really touched up. Gabe Pruitt there. Bobby Jones, not the old Bobby Jones, but Bobby Jones that played for the Sixers and the Nuggets. There, Torian Green. Got Anthony Carter, Linus Kleza, of course, Nene. And then when you do Nene there, it's got to be like the earlier Nene, um, that looked younger. Got guys like Mike Harris on here, like Lauren Woods. That's important. Making sure Jeff Pendergraph has Pendergraph here and then Ayers later on the Spurs because that's how it was. Just filling this roster out. That's another team. Portland's going to be in trouble because they don't have Roy and they may lose Aldridge this year. And then you don't have Bayless, Webster, Cunningham, Prisbilla, Pendergraph, or Diener. That leaves basically Howard, Mills, Fernandez, Camby, and Odin, along with Batum and Miller. It's going to look like that Memphis team from 12-13, which is not good. Luol Deng there. We know we got Deng back in my team. He's just got to get added in a roster update. Unfortunately, Rasul Butler passed away, so we're not going to see him. And what I wish they'd fix is the ability, like, look how he looks there, accurate. But then you go out here and it don't look nothing like him. I wish they would fix that. John Lucas III. We've got other guys like Dominique Jones, Roddy Beaubois on the rosters. The Knicks, making sure you get Jerome Jordan, Josh Harrelson. There's Dan Gadzuric. Iman Shumpert. He's one that I'm surprised they don't go get. Tony Douglas was another important piece to the team. Looking at Oklahoma City, added Lazar Hayward. Not a very good Cole Aldridge. He's kind of difficult to make accurately, so that's the best I could do with it. Not my favorite. Tabo Cephalosha. As you can see, the Cephalosha looks way different there than he does on the outside here. Yeah, it drives me nuts, MJ, man. Like, it just drives me nuts. I asked to see if we can get it switched over to 12 for the 60s, at least the 60s to the 90s teams. But we'll see if that gets implemented or not. A lot of players missing for this Memphis team. Obviously, Mark Gasol. Gasol looks different there than he does in here. What's going to be interesting is, okay, so they get Mark Gasol back, right? So they have the rights to Gasol, but you're going to lose Ed Davis this year. So you're still down a player. So you're going to have Randolph, Conley, Gasol, Allen, Doling, and that's it. Oh, and Roten, and that's it. Like, they need Bayless, Pondexter, Darrell Arthur, John Lohr, Austin Day. Dante Green and Willie Reed were signed at the very end of the year, to fill out rosters and stuff like that. Yeah, MJ, man. Like, what I did is if a player, because if you go to Basketball Reference, and I'm sure you know this, but if you go to Basketball Reference and you go down to the salary section for each team, it'll show you a player that necessarily doesn't show up on that initial roster screen or roster tab, like on Basketball Reference, and then you can backtrack to see if that salary was still on the books for that next season. Um, and that's what I did with. I don't know if you saw it, but that's what I did with Jamie Fike. He was out for the year with the leg injury, even though he was under contract for one last season. That's how I filled in the nets there to get them properly to their roster limit. Just stuff like that. I tried to be realistic as possible. I didn't want to go the draft pick route because if they didn't actually play, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make it as accurate as possible. But once you do those 60, 70 teams, you kind of have to for the most part. Um, but I took liberties with some teams, I'll show you, like the Lakers here. I put Cotton Nash, even though he got waived. Like I added him in as well. Like you can see where I added players in. Like Charlie Pauk is there. Um, Jim Barnett obviously got waived at like in April, but I kept him on the roster. Stuff like that overall. Um, for the team. Bedford, like I talked about, being injured for the year. Um, and then from there, um, they basically had it to where uh, they, just are needed to fill out the roster. That's a simple way to put it. Let's see. Let me go back to. Oh, I did the same thing. Another example. I did the same thing with William Cunningham. Like a 10-day contract. I tried to keep them within the season. Is the best way to put it. Took liberties with, like I said, with like Jamel Thomas. Even though he never played for them, he was on the team. Um, at the end of the year, he got signed to the roster. So just stuff like that. Let's go back through. I was on. Okay, we got Miami. I got like Jarvis Varnado. A lot of people don't even remember who that is. Um, Damian James. We got Andrew Bynum there. I thought I did pretty well with like a lot of the caps. Like I got them off of all kinds of different rosters, and went from there. Some of them I fixed up myself, but for the most part, off of different rosters, different draft classes, fixed up the year, stuff like that. So just try to be accurate with the teams as possible. Um, Made sure to get Jordan Lloyd on the two-way contract. A lot of people don't remember that. That was the first year they did him. Like Jody Meeks looks different in the menu. Malcolm Miller, stuff like that. All right, and then I went to the all-time teams. This is just my preference of what I fixed. Like Red Kerr, I added to the roster. We got to get Ben Simmons off the all-time Sixers for next year. I don't care who they put on there. Steve Mix even they could put on there. Just get Simmons off the all-time Sixers. But anyway, like Red Kerr, Larry Costello, Andrew Toney. I tried to go with them. I got Charles Barkley there. Added in. Didn't change anything for the Bucks. I thought they looked okay. Bulls, I added Luol Deng, Chet Walker as well. Norm Van Leer. Would love for them to um, get Norm Van Leer into NBA 2K finally. So it's been a long time. I swapped out Anderson Varejao for Tristan Thompson. You don't have to do that. I also swapped out like Jason Tatum for Cedric Maxwell, Rondo for Dennis Johnson. Ed McCauley is in as well for Ray Allen. That's a terrible Ed McCauley. I haven't had a chance to fix his face and go that route. I just kind of added him into the roster. Bob Kaufman for the Clippers. Randy Smith definitely needed for the Clippers. Then we go over the Grizzlies. Got obviously Marc Gasol added. I used the older, longer hair Marc Gasol. I got OJ Mayo. Also added Stromile Swift. I was debating on Stromile Swift, but I took out Mike Bibby because I thought Bibby had a better career with Sacramento. That and it was too many point guards for the team. Go to the Hawks. John Drew, I added. Mookie Blaylock. Bill Bridges. They can go get Bill Bridges as well. He's in the NBRPA. Dan Roundfield. They may lose Joe Johnson next year. We'll see. Zelmo Beatty, um, added him as well. You can see he's a little bit bigger. Lenny Wilkins as well. So I really kind of switched this team around. I think they lose Paul Millsap and Joe Johnson, so we'll see how they fill those out. Hassan Whiteside will probably get lost as well. Mario Chalmers and Grant Long were better choices to me to be on the all-time Heat. All-time Heat here, or all-time Hornets and Bobcats. Got Emeka Okafor, Anthony Mason, of course, Al Jefferson, and LaMelo Ball to me should be added in. Um, Going to the Jazz. I added Mamedo Kerr. I took out Truck Robinson. Going to the Kings, I went with the older team because I think they have more longevity and better numbers overall than some of the current member Kings that they had in. Put Bobby Wainzer, Sam Lacey, Bob Davies, Jack Twyman, and of course Chris Webber there. Going over to the Knicks, they can also go get Harry Gallatin out of the NBA RPA. Added him. Willie Knowles, multiple-time All-Star for them. And then Mark Jackson, I thought he deserved to be on the team as well. Going over to the Lakers, I took out Anthony Davis for Pau Gasol. I think that's just a better representation on the team. Going over to the Magic, Bo Outlaw in for Steve Francis. Just Bo Outlaw, just what he did for the team. Wasn't anything great, but at least could be there as a long-term player for the team. Sam Perkins added for the Mavericks, Roy Tarpley, and then Josh Howard. I took out Mashburn, Jackson, and I believe, was it Sean Bradley? I think was the other one I took out as well. Redid Brooklyn. I took out all the guys like Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant, who are useless to this team. Bill Melchioni added in. John Williamson added in. I hope they can go get the rights to him. Brian Taylor's another one. Billy Paltz. And then Kerry Kittles as well. I thought Kittles, if you're going to put Van Horn, you should have put Kittles. He was a little bit more better, even though he's injured. I think he was a better choice in my opinion. Ralph Sampson added in for the Nuggets. Bobby Jones added in as well. Took out Iverson. I didn't think, even though Iverson had a good 1.5 seasons for Denver, I didn't think it was enough to keep him there. Got Dale Davis to the Pacers. Billy Knight on the Pacers. Roger Brown on the Pacers, and then, of course, Reggie Miller on the Pacers. Going to the Pelicans, touched them up a little bit as well. Jamal McGlure added in. He was an all-star for them. P.J. Brown swapped to the roster, and then Tyreek Evans. I thought later in the late 2010s he was valuable for that team for sure. So Detroit Pistons, Larry Faust, George Yardley, both deserve to be on the roster. Older players, yes, but I've never been a fan of Andre Drummond. And I made an executive decision to go Larry Faust over having another version of Dave DeBusschere. That was just my choice. Toronto Raptors. Jose Calderon added in. I thought he deserved to be there. I added in Amir Johnson over Tracy McGrady. That was just a personal decision. It's not that Tracy McGrady, he wasn't that good with Toronto. And Amir Johnson wasn't that great either. But, I just made the decision. I wanted Amir Johnson in. So, that is what it is. Yeah, the portraits drive me nuts too, MJ. I made another decision. Robert Reed over Chris Paul. Looking at the Spurs, Mike Mitchell absolutely should be in the game. He's in the NBRPA, so I hope he gets added at some point. I also added Alvin Robertson. I don't think we'll ever see him in, but wishful thinking there. Took out Aldridge and Louis Dampier. Going over to the Phoenix Suns, got Barkley, of course, but also Connie Hawkins. Hawkins deserves to be on the all-time team, one of the greatest Suns of all time. Made another decision for the Sonics, took out Paul George, put in Lenny Wilkins. Same with the Timberwolves. I took out Latrell Sprewell, put in Sam Mitchell, added Al Jefferson as well. I thought both of them deserved to be on the roster. Portland Trailblazers added in Cliff Robinson. Obviously, Rasheed Wallace as well. And then Brandon Roy there. So, going over to the Golden State Warriors. Made some decisions for them. Neil Johnston, Jeff Mullins, and Joe Folks added in, along with Sprewell, who was moved over from Minnesota. It's all-time team. I think Sprewell should be in there over Iguodala, personally, or even Jason Richardson, whoever you want to swap it for. Last but not least, for the all-time teams, added Greg Ballard, Chris Webber, Gus Johnson, all to the team, along with Walt Bellamy, who's also in the NBRPA, so I hope they can get the rights to him as well. So that's what I did with the all-time teams. If you want to download it, you can go to 2K Share and type in retro current G League roster, and you'll see it. Or my gamer tag, PT Sports 84, all together, and you'll find it there. G League. So I filled out the G League rosters with accurate players. These guys are all considered on the team. Now that the G League playoffs have come, some teams might be a little shortened because of the 10-day contract signed with teams and stuff like that. Like Samanich, for example, if he doesn't get signed back to the Jazz, I'll flip him back to the main Celtics and stuff like that. But got all the guys added in. So, these are accurate as far as having all the players in. Some teams I filled up, and accurately put some of the ratings, but this takes so long. I wasn't able to get a lot done in that aspect other than filling the rosters in. But this is a good starter set if you guys want to use this for over the summer. Basically use it as a base roster, so to speak. You can always overwrite these G League players and then use draft picks if you want and go that route. Like, there's a number of things you could do. All I wanted to do was just get a base roster out that somebody could use as their base. They don't have to start from scratch and do all the work. At least it gets, even 50% of the stuff done, because this stuff takes a long time. Without the ability to have a like typed in spreadsheet or anything like that, this takes a while to put together. Having a family and work obligations, it's tough for me to really dive in and do these nonstop. So I did the best I could overall. So I feel pretty good with where things were based on the season, and just keeping things accurate and stuff like that. So overall, like I said, just there to have it as a base. So and then one thing I want to note, you can go in and the deleted players are all here. So if you decide some of the all-time teams you don't like those players that I chose, you can swap them out for these guys. So I fixed up the free agent pool. I fixed the ratings to get guys kind of in order. I deleted anybody that's overseas and just kept the guys that are actual free agents. So it thins out the free agent pool and goes a little bit easier once free agency happens if you want to use the current rosters and stuff like that. So I got all the way up to the Pelicans with ratings and stuff like that. After that, I just haven't had a chance to update. Maybe a player here and there periodically, but ratings-wise and stuff like that, I touched up all the way through the Pelicans. So if you guys want to download it, I appreciate the support. Also, if you'd enjoyed this video, please smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you like all this kind of content, and like to see what was in the official roster updates. This case, minimal patch update stuff. Um, and things like that. So if there is any retro content updated before the end of the year, I'll have that video out. Also, I will have. I didn't see anything, Hugo, for Craig Elo. Um, also, if there is a ratings update on Thursday, of course I'll have that video out on Thursday with all the updated changes and things like that. So, one other thing I wanted to highlight before I forget. Um, don't know if anybody noticed, but the uh, playbooks throughout the year were updated. There's still a long way to go as far as uh, teams go. Like you know if a team got updated because they have the team moniker like shorthand in front of the plays. So for Charlotte, it's CHA. Like you could tell the plays got updated. Versus like a team like the Jazz. Um, like I'll show you in the current roster because they did actually update um, some stuff there. Like for the Jazz, where are they? So the Jazz got an update. As you can see, the difference in the rosters. The Jazz do get an update. They have the Utah here, so the Jazz get an update to their team. And like I said, you can always check and see which teams got updates. Like Lakers, of course, because you see the LAL there. Um, Mavericks got a huge update as well. Still needed the Nets to have something. There's quite a bit of teams that needed an update that didn't necessarily get it. The Indiana Pacers have an update. Pelicans, of course, they redid another Pelicans update as well. So they added 3-point plays to the Pelicans. So everybody that was kind of complaining that you can't use 3-point plays for the Pelicans, now you can. So those are fully updated. So shout out to Desar and his team for quality work. My understanding, they did a little bit different this year. They waited to get scouting in season on teams rather than scout them from the last season, which is smart. I like that idea. I'd rather take a little longer with the update and then see the updates throughout the year. One criticism is that there was no record of these even being updated. I'd love to see, like, even a post of, hey, we updated these 5 teams' playbooks, so that way everybody kind of knows what's going on. Because a lot of people that aren't roster savvy won't check these teams, and then in their mind, they're like, oh, well, I played online 2 weeks ago with such and such team, and I didn't have any 3-point plays for the Pelicans. I'm not using them. And meanwhile, they had been updated. So I'd love to see just a little notification to show that they had been touched up. Same thing with the Thunder. They got an update. Minnesota as well. So wanted to make sure I highlighted and gave props to Czar and his team. Great job for those updates throughout the season. So that's it, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit, like I said, the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope we get a roster ratings update on Thursday. That'll be the last for the season. Maybe a small playoff one, but we'll see. But yeah, definitely want to get retro content updated. I don't know that'll happen, though. I don't have any inside info, but I can just cross my fingers and hope it happens. But until then, thank you for watching, and hope everybody, like I said, has a great rest of your week. Take care.